Hey everyone, welcome back to the Marketing Spotlight podcast. I'm your host, Jake Leston, and I'm joined today by our good friend, Alexia Lynch. Hey Alexia, how are you?
Hey, I'm doing well. How are you?
Excellent. I'm excellent. Well, welcome to the podcast. And like we do with all of our guests, we ask you to do a quick intro of yourself, who you are, and what are you all about?
I was born and raised in Michigan, went to Michigan State, got my undergrad in marketing, and then I studied marketing research for my master's degree. After I graduated, I moved to Salt Lake City, Utah, and I work for a company called Qualtrics in the tech space, and I do marketing research. Essentially, I work for our services team, and we supply research to our clients who outsource their research. So,
I want us to go back to your time at Michigan State. What was that thought process around wanting to be a part of the business school and being a marketing undergraduate?
well, growing up, my dad did sales, and I always thought, like, I'm very similar to him. I always thought, okay, this is something I think I would really enjoy and maybe do well with. So when I went to school, I was intending on studying marketing to then minor in sales or to have a career in sales. But once I got a little bit more into the degree and taking more classes, I kind of realized, and I learned more, I guess, about what a career in sales would entail. I realized that maybe that wasn't the path for me, but I still really had a strong interest in marketing. I had a couple internships that kind of solidified that. And then I decided to get my master's in marketing research so I could have a little bit more of a specialty. The marketing program was great. I have absolutely no regrets with making that decision.
That's fantastic. And you mentioned that you had some internship experience in marketing. Can you tell our listeners a little bit about what those experiences were and maybe how you came to find them?
All of them were based on my network, like meeting people at career fairs and then staying in touch with them, or through people who I had connected with on LinkedIn, I believe. But my first internship was for Farm Bureau Insurance, and that was more like advertising based, I guess advertising and PR, which I enjoyed, but I think I realized that I wanted maybe to focus a little bit more on brand. So my internship before my senior year was at General Motors, and I was on their truck product marketing team. We worked with the brand team. We worked with advertising, with research. It was a very great role to get a lot of visibility into the different facets of marketing. So I think that really helped me understand that marketing research was something that I wanted to pursue.
And so was it that then was the driving force behind what made you take the plunge into the MSMR program?
Yeah, yes, definitely. So when I was there, I had the opportunity to work directly with the research team, and we did a foundation clinic. So I was able to go on site. There were quantitative surveys that people took, but then we also had qualitative focus groups and things like that. So I was able to really see like what marketing research can look like in real life. And I had been thinking about doing the MSMR program before the internship, but then after having that experience, it solidified that that was something I wanted to pursue. I would say that definitely like it's just so hard to know what you want to do. Our master's program is definitely an investment of both time and money. And I'm really thankful that I had the opportunity to see the applications of research before I made that decision. But I will say that, like, one thing about marketing is just that it's really vague. It can include sales, advertising, PR, research, like the list goes on and on. And I think it's pretty tough to find an entry level position, and I felt like the MSMR program kind of would give me that, and this has remained true, but it almost gave me that specialty to get my foot into the door. And I still really like it, and I don't intend to leave the field. But I think that now, if I wanted to, I have the means to sort of pivot into another facet if I wanted.
I think you're spot on. Marketing has become so diverse, but and I'm sure you can attest to this. That the one piece that stays central is marketers' ability to understand consumers or end users and buyers, et cetera. Talk with me a little bit about sort of your experience in the MSMR program. What is it like to go through that program? And now working at Qualtrics, are you seeing a direct translation of what you learned in your coursework? And are you able to use it, every day?
The program I did the dual enrollment program in person. So it was relatively accelerated. My final semester of my undergrad, which was spring of 2020, I took master's program classes that counted towards both my undergrad degree and my master's degree. And then after that, I had a summer semester and then a fall semester, and that's when I graduated. So it was only really like an extra semester, or I guess maybe 2 semesters if you count summer semester after my undergrad degree. So it didn't impact my timing of my plans for getting a job or anything. I would say really great. As far as like the content of the program goes, I felt like that program, it was great because it had so much real like project work that I think I took one exam during the entire program. The rest of it was a lot of team projects, which I know can be scary for a lot of people, but I will say that team projects are better when you get into grad school because people, I think, have like, maybe there's higher motivation. I don't know, but
People want to
there's just more
collaborate with each other.
accountability. And you
Yeah.
have one, you're taking your classes with all of the same people. So it's like if you don't participate, like people know. So a lot of the content, like a lot of the actual classes themselves were very beneficial and have directly correlated to the things that I do in my job right now. But I would say the best part of the program is at the end, you do a capstone. So you basically do a full service project from start to finish for a client, which is essentially what I do in my job right now. So that was really great to get that experience. And then I also took a project course. Well, I graduated in 2020, which so obviously like time of COVID, I was supposed to have an internship, as were a lot of my classmates. Most of them got canceled. So the alternative was to participate in this project course, which I'm actually really glad that I did. It was a bummer that my internship was canceled, but I really learned a lot in that project course. But essentially I worked with like a small group to do a full service project from start to finish. Actually, we did 2 projects. So we had 2 clients and we did it within the semester or within the summer, which is relatively quick. I don't think I would have been prepared for the job that I have right now. I guess maybe if I had other industry experience, like that probably would have prepared me. But as far as coursework goes, I really think the master's program set me up for success for the job that I have now.
That's fantastic. You sort of talk a little bit about the teamwork element and collaborating, and you also talked a little bit about networking on the front end of finding your internships. And so I can't help but think that working collaboratively has sort of been a part of everything that you've done throughout your career. So as you think about advice you might give to students who are networking with other students or collaborating in the classroom or on projects, what advice do you give on being a really good teammate and networking with your peers and your classmates?
I think it all just comes down to being a good teammate, being a teammate that you would want to work with. So being proactive with your communication. If you make a mistake, owning up to it, finding solutions on how you can resolve the situation, things like that. Always live by the saying of like never burn a bridge, especially the marketing. I mean, the marketing industry is small. I mean, it's big, but it's small. Like the world is small. But the marketing research industry specifically is especially small, and people know each other and people talk. And I think it's really important to create a strong foundation for your reputation and for like the connections that you're building in school. So making sure that you're being trustworthy and communicative teammate, and making sure that you are delivering to what you say you will.
That's fantastic. And you mentioned too, certainly the world has changed dramatically in the last, 3 years since finishing your program during COVID and then, the subsequent time, thereafter. What sort of differences or things have you seen coming from, moving and graduating in a time of COVID and lockdowns to what, sort of what you're experiencing today in your job or collaborating with others?
Yeah, that's a good question. It's sometimes this question is kind of hard because I feel like a lot of people who I work with began their career before COVID, of course. I began my career during COVID. So all I ever really knew, other than my internships, was working remotely during COVID times. So I would say the biggest thing is when I started my job, I was working fully remote, as were all my teammates. And then my company has sort of transitioned more into hybrid work. So right now we're in the office between like, I mean, it's still really flexible, but around 3 to 4 days a week. And I would say that is a big change, both impacting like how my team works with each other and how I work personally on the projects I'm working on. Yeah, I would say that's the biggest change.
So what would you tell, for our for students who are, coming up on graduation, who maybe do have that opportunity to either work remotely or work in a hybrid, environment? What sort of advice would you have for them now, sort of growing through these working transitions? What do you think would be important to know to make a successful teammate who's either remote or hybrid?
I would say that over communicating, regardless of if you're in person or if you are remote, I feel like the times when I've had trouble working with people is because either myself or them like made assumptions or figured that like because this happened, then I'm guessing they know this or something. And making sure to always over communicate. I felt like when I first started, I would always ask all of the questions. Like I know that it's tough. You don't want to like some people are afraid to ask the questions because they don't want to seem like they don't know. But I would say that being inquisitive shows that you are thorough and that you care, and also helps you do your job effectively. So yeah, I would say ask the questions and don't be afraid to ask about like the context. That's one big thing that I feel like when I'm explaining something, I try to provide the context. And when I'm asking questions, I try to get as much context as I can, because I don't know if it's just the way I learn or not, but that to me is a big component of doing the job right.
I mean, and that's I'm smiling here because I think that that's such an important part of even marketing research is you're trying to get as much context as possible about your respondents and trying to learn as much as you can from consumers. So I think that that's spot on advice coming from you and your experience. And so with that in mind, I guess as students might be interested in a career in marketing research, what advice do you have for students who are thinking about the MSMR program or just thinking about the field of marketing research and endeavoring to have a career in it?
Marketing research is definitely broad. I mean, you can work for a supplier and you can kind of be an expert in research methodology and work across multiple different industries and maybe not necessarily be an expert in industries, but you are the expert in the research. Or you can work for a client and be an expert in the industry and understand the pillars of research, but then work with suppliers for their expertise on the methodology. I would say that like the biggest thing to being a researcher is to be curious. When you see a news headline, I guess, rather than just reading it as is and taking it for what it's worth, I guess challenge your brain to kind of start asking the why. Like, oh, what would have driven this change? Or what made people feel this way? Like, are there things happening in the world or things happening in the industry? I think always having a curious mindset, and my manager says always have your researcher's cap on. Always be a little bit, I don't know if skeptical is the right word, but like challenge or question the things that are presented to you. And that helps you both train your brain to think of things from other angles, but it also helps you just to, I guess, be a really thorough researcher and a thorough employee, I guess.
So as you think about being a marketing research professional, what are the things that keep you curious?
I guess the world, all of the changes in the world keep me curious. And that applies to both my career and my personal life. So how are these changes in the economy impacting how consumers are spending or behaving? How are the like in various industries, like what are the changes and how would that be impacting the research that we need to do or the questions we need to ask? And as far as my personal life goes, I would say definitely just curiosity about the world. Like I know that there's so many places that I haven't seen and so many things I haven't experienced. And I'm really motivated to see different parts of the world, understand different cultures, things like that. And I think that that really drives my curiosity.
That's fantastic. And I'm sure maybe our listeners might be curious to know too about your experience going from, East Lansing to Salt Lake City. What has your experience been to relocate to a different time zone partway across the country? And sort of what advice would you have for students who may be facing potential relocation after graduation?
Yeah, that's a great question. I was really blessed in that I was able to move with two of my friends who also landed jobs at the same company as me, which
Oh, how cool.
really, really insane. But I think that that might have made my experience a little bit unique. I'm not gonna lie. But I would say when you move, that is already something that's uncomfortable, but don't stop being uncomfortable. Push yourself out of your comfort zone to do the things. Try to not say no, I guess. And whether that comes in your job, like if someone has a task that needs to be done, even if you don't really know how to do it, say yes, figure it out, problem solve, ask the questions, and get the job done. It's going to help you learn how to be just a critical thinker, and it's going to help you be better at your job. As far as like socially, or I guess in your personal life, also don't say no. Like if someone asks you to do something, or if you see of an or find out of an event, just go do the things. It can be really uncomfortable, but there are so many opportunities and benefits of doing those things. And I would say that growth happens when you are uncomfortable. So find out how to be comfortable being uncomfortable and hopefully things will fall into place. Also remember that nothing is permanent, and if things really do not work out and you really are not enjoying it, you don't have to stay. Like you can move home, or you can move to the other place you wanted to move, but just keep that in the back of your mind.
That's great advice. Get comfortable being uncomfortable. I like that. Speaking of uncomfortable, how about we move on to the lightning round here with as we wrap things up to an end. Are you ready, Alexia?
Yeah, I am.
All righty. All right. Here's the lightning round. First question. What dorm did you live on while you lived on campus?
McDonald Hall.
Excellent. Favorite East Lansing restaurant?
Sansu Sushi.
Brand you admire the most?
There's a brand, it's called Half Days, and it is a ski apparel company. Well, not just ski now, it's like ski and hiking. But it was founded by a female MSU grad. And they really focus on having functional and stylish clothing. And I know they say it's at an affordable price, I would argue. But I think they have a really, really great brand. I think that their social media, everything like really speaks to their brand and their pillars. So that would be the brand I admire the most.
Awesome. And last but not least, what's happening in marketing today that you think is going to have the biggest impact on the industry over the next 10 years?
I don't know if this isn't necessarily happening specifically in marketing, but I think AI is going to really evolve how we approach marketing.
Fantastic. Well, I want to thank our guest, Alexia Lynch, for being with us today. And as we end all of our podcasts, go green.
Go white.
Thanks so much. Have a good one.
Thank you, you too.